Hello YouTube, welcome back to another one of my Disney era rankings. This time I'll be talking about the experimental era. This is from 2000 to 2008. It was called the experimental era because many different kinds of films were being released by Disney. These included sci-fi films, CGI films, concert films, like a lot, just to name a few. This was because two little-known animation studios were on the rise, Pixar and DreamWorks. And because of their rise, no one really wanted to see the old-school Disney 2D animated films. They wanted to see the new CGI films. So Disney decided to follow their lead. This will be interesting to rank because there are many cult films in this era and that have a lot of internet popularity. It would be also interesting to rank because there are a lot of films in here that people say are some of the worst Disney movies ever made. So with all of that out of the way, let's begin. Number 11. Home on the Range. Guys, this is the worst Disney film I have ever watched. I mean, it's about 3 cows going on a journey to save their farm from bandits. Okay, that sounds silly. Maybe there'll be some good characters and some good jokes to balance it out. Right? Right? Ha, no. Most of the characters that are in here are very dislikable, with none having any redeeming qualities. The animation here is also very poor, with it looking like something you'd find in a poorly made preschool show. The jokes in here are also terrible, with most of the stuff being haha far funny. I don't even want to talk about this film longer than I have. I hate the fact that I had to watch it for my rankings. I hate that I had to watch this poorly made, brain dead movie, and I hate that I wasted any thought on it. Whew. Guys, you don't need to watch this movie. As you can see, it broke me. And if it broke me, it can probably break you. Next movie. Number 10. Dinosaur. This is one of the worst movies that I've ever seen in my life. I don't even want to talk about it that much because I just want to forget that I even watched it. So the first thing that I should mention about this movie is the unique and cutting edge animation. So the animation here, the backgrounds are real photos, and CGI characters, in this case dinosaurs, are plastered on them. I mentioned this because it doesn't really fit the characters at all, and it looks very ugly and off-putting. The characters in here are also very forgettable. With me, I don't really remember the names of anyone. Yeah, I'm trying to think right now. I can't remember anyone. The story in here is also full of tropes and is very boring. You know what? That's the perfect way to describe this movie. Boring. It has boring characters, boring animation, and a boring story. It is honestly the most boring film that I've ever seen in my life, and that is why it is another 1 out of 10 movie from this ranking. And let me just say, Dinosaur is a movie that I wouldn't mind becoming extinct and lost to time, never to be watched again. Number 9, Chicken Little. This is another movie in here that I really don't like, but I don't despise it as much as other people. The thing I don't like about this movie is that there is pop culture jokes, which reminds me a lot of a DreamWorks film. But unlike one of their films, they feel really forced and unfunny here. The other thing in here I really don't like is dislikable characters, because most of them are dislikable except for Chicken Little, which you can tell they're trying to do to make Chicken Little easier to root for, but it just makes the movie seem unpleasant. Like, take his dad. You can tell they're trying to make disconnected from his son, but when they do that, it just makes him seem really dislikable and wants nothing to do with his son at all. That kind of makes me not want to root for him to reunite with his son at the end of the movie, which is the whole heart of the movie. Come on. The other thing I don't like is how it starts about a son trying to press his dad through baseball to a movie about aliens invading, because they don't really connect. Two things I like in here are the unique design of the aliens and some of the side characters, because some of them are funny. So there are some things I like about this movie, But there's a lot I really, really don't like, and that's why it's here. It's better than the last two, but not by much. I mean, I don't like this movie, but I don't despise it as much as other people. Because, oh boy, those last two movies, eh. Anyway, let's go on to the next film. Number 8, Brother Bear. This is the movie I find the most forgettable on this list. I think there is worse, but this is probably the most forgettable. So first off, I gotta say that this movie is very visually striking and it looks very, very pretty. Probably my favorite Disney movie visually. I also think this movie has a good opening that establishes its main character as well. However, when the main character Kenai turns into a bear, that's when a lot of problems I have with this movie start to come in. First off, I don't think the whole brother thing really works out because Kenai and the younger bear Coda don't really feel like brothers and more like acquaintances, you know? And also, I don't really like that Phil Collins came back because, like I said in Tarzan, his voice singing in this movie kind of breaks the immersion with Disney movie because you're hearing a world-renowned celebrity sing in this movie. The last thing I really don't like about this movie is how the main character Kenai treats the younger bear Coda, because he just seems very angry at him for no reason at all except that he doesn't really want to be a bear. And this is why I think this movie is very forgettable. It has very forgettable songs and kind of dislikable characters. So yeah, but I don't really have much else to say for this movie aside from that. Just forgettable. Moving on. Number 7, Fantasia 2000. So, this movie is nowhere as good as the original, but it's still very interesting. So the first thing that I like about this movie is that how ambitious it is that they're continuing Walt's original idea for the original Fantasia many years later in a modern setting. However, this movie gets really dragged down by its okay segments. Like the one with the flamingos and the whales really didn't catch my attention and it just kind of went okay as they ended, which was for most of them. However, the one about New York and the one with the forest spirit really caught my attention, and I thought they were really beautiful and moving, almost on par as the original Fantasia. However, what really drags this movie down are the celebrity cameos, because they are really unnecessary and a lot of humor in this movie that should be serious in tone. And yeah, that's all I have to say. This movie is way worse than the original Fantasia, but because of its celebrity cameos and its mostly okay segments. But there's a few segments in here that made the experience worth it. It's not better than the original, but hey, it's a very interesting movie just by its existence. Number 6, Treasure Planet. So, don't hate me for this. There's a lot I really like about this movie, but there's also a lot about this movie that I really don't like. First off, I really like the combination between steampunk and modern technology in this art style because it makes it look very unique and very visually striking to look at. And I think this movie has some of the best animation out of Disney's entire library. I also really like the main character of Jim Hawkins because he's very three-dimensional and relatable. I also like the villain of Silver because of how much of a twist he is on the typical Disney villain. But there are a lot of things about this movie that I really don't like. For instance, there are some very annoying characters like Dr. Doppler and this very annoying robot named Benny. Most of this can be attributed to the humor because the humor in here is very immature and very bad. And it honestly ruins some very serious scenes in this movie. Overall, I think Treasure Planet is an alright movie with a great style, some great animation, and some great characters. However, it has some annoying side characters and some very bad humor. It's not a movie I like as much as the rest of my generation, but I can still see why it's such a big cult classic.